In order to find a probability, you could always set up a fraction. The top number, it's going to be the total number of things that you're interested in. Here, what's the probability that a random sample is contaminated? That's what we're interested in. But looking at the data, we can see, okay, 3 of these categories are contaminated, either slightly, moderately, or heavily. So we want to add all of these samples together. Put that as the top number here. We're interested in all the ones that are contaminated. Okay, you could do this with the calculator, but 20 plus 30, 50. 50 plus 75, 125. So 125 of them are contaminated. Next, the bottom part of the fraction is always going to be the total, but often they'll just give it to you. They tell us that 500 water samples are tested. That is the total. We'll put that in the bottom. By the way, that's the same thing as adding all 4 of these together. You'll get exactly 500. Okay, but we've done all the hard part, because now you can plug this in the calculator they give you. It'll convert it to a nice percent. So let's go ahead and see that last step here. We want to start with our fraction, that's this n over d button. Then type in the top number, 125. Go to the bottom, use the down arrow, put the total, 500, and enter. Then use the button above enter, convert it to a decimal. Think of it as money. This is 25 cents, same thing as 25%. So B, this is the correct probability, or there's a 25% likelihood that one of these random samples taken will be contaminated. And that makes sense because a majority of them are safe, so it's not very likely that it will be contaminated. So once you know how to set up a probability, plug it in the calculator, you'll be good for any of these guys. But let's look at some different types they could ask. Once again, we're finding a probability. What does it mean if it's an experimental probability? Well, that just means that the data that they gave you was based on an experiment. That's all. So you can ignore that. We're just going to do a regular probability. Let's set up our fraction. What are we interested in this time? What are we going to put up top? We want to find the probability that a cell survives. Let's see what's going on here. A scientist exposed cells to a toxic chemical in an experiment. The total number of cells observed was 200. We notice this is the total, 200. Let's go ahead and put that as the total in the bottom of the fraction. Okay, next, cells that died. Out of the 200, it looks like 40 of these cells died. But if 40 of them died, all the rest of them survived. So to find that number, let's just take the total, subtract the ones that died, and that'll leave us with the ones that survived. Let's show that here. So 200 minus 40, that'll get us 160. Those are the number that survived, and that's what we're interested in. So that is the top number. But it's a bit anticlimactic because we're done here. We see that C, 160 over 200, same thing as what we got. They didn't simplify or convert, and we're not mad about it. And just like we saw, if you're given a total in one category, but everything else falls into a different category, to find that number, you can always use subtraction to get there. All right, but what if they don't give you the total? How would you do one like that? Let's see. Let's read it. Astronomers tracked asteroids passing near Earth. If the diameter is from 0 to 0.4 kilometers, then 4 of them fit within that range there. And so on for these other ones. What's the probability, let's highlight, that a randomly selected asteroid has a diameter between 1 and 1.9 kilometers? Now we find 1 right here, 1.9 here. Those are the diameters we're interested in. But to find everything between them, it's going to be all of these ones and all of these ones. In other words, we're going to add the 9 plus 3. That's going to be the top part of our fraction. So adding those, we get 12. There's 12 that we're interested in. But like we said, we don't have the total. No worries. If that's the case, just go ahead and add all of the data together. And doing that, Adding all 5 of these, we'll get 25 total. All right, you know what to do. Let's plug this in, find out what percent that gives us here. We'll use that fraction button again, this time 12 that we're interested in, out of 25 total. Enter, button above enter, and we get money. 48 cents, same thing as 48%. Therefore A, that's our correct probability here. But actually it's kind of crazy that these asteroids could be 1 to 1.9 kilometers wide. So I guess the real question is, will Steve Buscemi and the gang be able to get to these asteroids, blow them up before they hit Earth? To be determined. And one last example. You may have to find the probability of something not happening. Let's check it out. What is the probability that a selected rock is not igneous? They don't tell us anything about igneous here, so you may have to read a little bit. 160 rock samples are collected. Let's pause here because this one sounds like the total. Let's do our fraction, put the total on the bottom, 160 down there. And out of these, it consists of igneous. Here we go. Those ones are basalt, granite, and obsidian. Notice that's the first 3 that are listed here. So these 3 values represent the igneous ones. Therefore, the ones that are not igneous are just these last 2 here. They call those sedimentary rocks, sandstone and limestone. Let's highlight those as well, and we'll label them. But like we said, these sedimentary ones are not igneous, so these are the ones that we're interested in. So to find the total number, we'll go ahead and add our 57 plus 41. Do that, and we'll get 98 here. Finally, you know what to do. We'll plug this in, find out what percent we get. Let's do it. Clear, probability, got our fraction, 98 over 160 total. Enter, button above enter, we get our decimal. Then you're going to move the decimal place 2 over, 1, 2, 61.25%. Closest answer is C. But the calculator can actually do that using this button here. This will convert from a decimal to a percent. Hit the green button, right parenthesis, and enter. There we have it. Same thing as 61.25%. So now we're very confident C, that's definitely the right probability here. So a not probability, just find what's actually in that group and count the rest of it. That's what you're interested in here. Here's another GED Science video that you could solve using the calculator, counting totals and combinations of things. Check out my website for practice just like these probability ones and other topics as well. Let me know what questions you have, what else you want me to cover. Good luck, you got these. We'll see you in the next video. Toodles!